What is up, everybody, and welcome to the bunker. So, if you watched the last episode, we were painting a Chaos Cultist, so I figured why not finish that off tonight. So, here's the model. Let's keep going on it. And I have fixed up my rig, so I have my proper lighting now, and I do have my infinite battery, so battery won't be an issue this time around, which is amazing. Starting off with my flow improver. Staple for every single time I paint. And I do have a few new brushes as well, which is amazing. So I'm going to continue base coating until I'm done, then I'll continue some highlighting. So hopefully by the time I finish this stream tonight, this model will be done. A little bit of a jam on the top of the head. Classic paint. Luckily this Drybrush tool helps. And I'm using Flail air gunmetal for this section. And this is going to be for the gun. I'll keep this around because you never know, you might need it again. Try out this new brush. This is a Citadel medium base brush, which I haven't used yet, but let's try it out. Just gonna face entire gun with the gunmetal tone. How's everyone doing tonight? Hope you had a good Christmas. Hope Santa was good to you and your family. I know my little girl had a blast. I don't know if you've noticed with this model too, giving it a closer look there. I actually kit-bashed on a Chaos Space Marine flamethrower rather than a standard weapon, just because this will be the last piece to my kill team. And I need a flamer because flamers are awesome. I did thin down this paint, just gunmetal a little bit further than normal, just so I can get some of the zenithal highlighting to show through. Just to get that little bit of extra tone and grittiness on the actual weapon itself. love a new brush. It's always really nice. In future streams, I'm hoping to have a little bit of background music. I'm still trying to figure that out to make sure I get something royalty free so I don't get dinged with it. Get this little detail here. I'm also going to get a little bit up here, just to kind of break up the details there. I'm going to add a little bit of gloss to the helmet. I'll be dry brushing over that later. Alright. That's the base coat on the gunmetal done. Now moving on to more of my favorite brown, which is Steel Legion Drab. I'm going to be doing a bit more of the small details here. So the gloves, and I'll be double checking over the side details. Transferring to the wet palette using my Garbo brush. And I'm going to be moving back down to a Citadel medium layer brush. Just to get it a little bit tighter. I had to get a new one of those as well, but I'm still going to use my old one for this because I don't feel like I need fine details yet. So adding in my flow improver just to get that that extra level of flow there. I'm just going to get right in there. Nice and thin so I can see some detail through. I'll be adding some earth shades to that later. Getting right in underneath there. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to, off stream, I actually added a little bit of wash to this just to kind of define the detail a little bit. Just going to go over this a little bit here just to kind of bring it back to its natural lighter tone. I'm going to leave the crevices dark so we don't lose any detail. Everyone's fairly quiet tonight. Anybody else doing any painting while watching? I'd like to know what you're painting. It's always fun. Now I'm going to add a little bit of detail to the bottom of the flamethrower here. I'm going to get the nice red in here, so I'm going to be using corn red for that. Transferring to my wet palette using my Drybrush as usual. And adding a little bit of flow aid into there just to make that nice and thin. Nothing's this flamethrower like a nice canister of gas. I'm going to go right over the skull for now. I'll fix that later with a little bit of detail, but we'll get there. We'll get there. Love how corn red is almost a bit more of a magenta when you thin it down. Blood for the blood god, but it's not really bloody colored. And just remember, this is just a base coat yet, so we're still going to be doing a good bit of detail over the top of this. I'm going to grab a little bit of the thicker corn red here. Just clean up the sides here where I had a little bit of the gunmetal that overflowed. 2 thin coats. The number one philosophy. Now, I need to clean up the back of the cloak a little bit, so I'm just going to go back to, if you watched the last episode, Ryan Oxide, before I start highlighting. And we're going up to the bigger brush for that again. Never go wrong with a bit of flow aid in there. Just drag it down. Mainly doing this to clean up my edges, because I wasn't very happy with my edges last time because I was kind of rushing a bit more. But still going pretty quick, so it's not bad. This brush is phenomenal for holding paint. Wow, it loads itself for like 10 years. There we go, that's pretty cleaned up. Just a little bit of hair too. Over splashed a little bit here with the blue last time. Just give it a little bit of cleaning. A little bit of maintenance. And a little bit right here where I overflowed with that arm strap. Swear I'm not a sloppy painter, sometimes. Alright, so. It's coming along, a little more glossy on the face there now than he was before. I almost dropped him on the ground, but that's okay. Now, if you guys watched the last episode, you remember that I did the upper cloak with the Techless blue. So I'm going to take a little bit of that out, but I'm also going to mix in some Temple Guard blue with that as well. Oh, that's not mixed up at all. Give that a better shake. And the Temple Guard blue I have is actually Temple Guard ear. Used it for some models in the airbrush with the rest of this army, but I find it's a little bit bright, but I only use it for highlighting. Don't really need to thin this one down too much because it is airbrush already, but we'll put it on the palette anyway because we're mixing it around. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to re-highlight over the areas that I already painted up top, just to kind of clean it up a little bit more and get rid of the paint from where I don't want them. So a little bit of flow improver, not too much. Mostly Techless blue right now for the first little bit. I'm going to do that mostly on just the raised areas. And where I'm highlighting, I want to make sure my brush is not too diluted down with paint, because I want to get a nice clean edge here. Going pretty high contrast on this, so once we start highlighting further, it'll be much more prominent there. So side of the hood here, just in the raised sections. Go pretty thin with the paint, remember, so it doesn't look too strange. Alright, so it's pretty highlighted back up again there now. I'm going to go a lot higher with it, but that's a nice little start for us for a base coat. I'm just going to look over the model really quick to make sure there's nothing I missed for base before I continue on. And it looked like it's pretty good. So, first thing I did tonight was the gunmetal. So what I'll do is I'll highlight that first. The way I'm going to do that is, first of all, I'm going to grab a little dry brushing paint. So Necron Compound for the funsies. And if you've read my blog, it's down in my description if you want to. I talk a little bit about brushes, and for dry brushing I do something a little bit different. I actually use you can see here, Elf Concealer makeup brush. I find it gives me a really good dry brush tone. It's nice close knit bristles with nice curls on the tip, so it's pretty good for dry brushing. Recommend it over almost any paintbrush I've ever tried. Just gonna dip that in. Dry it off. Make sure it's pretty dry. Just gonna kind of edge highlight here. Bring out the details on the weapon. The brush is really dry, so I'm only getting the raised edges on her. Pretty heavy on the top of it, because that's where the light hits. You want that to be highlighted up a bit more. I'm actually gonna go right into the face here for a moment too, and highlight the face down low. So as you can see, really brings out the details in in the gunmetal. Now, the red is really bright, so I'm going to take some Nolan Oil, just kind of go over that and darken it up a little bit. So, of course, the old classic, be really careful not to spill this because it gets everywhere. So I'm literally just going to take my medium layer brush and just take a little bit out. Close it right back up because I don't need a whole lot. Because I have spilled this stuff before and it is not fun. So basically just coating the red in the Nolan Oil just to kind of create some definition. I'll re-highlight later, but with Chaos we want to be a little bit gritty. Give them that evil look, I guess you could say. I'm going to pull some of the paint back away too because I went a little bit too hard on that just then. There we go. So, let's see. Darken it up a good bit. Once that dries, I'll go back in and highlight and get that skull. I'm going to do the skull bronze, I think, just to give it a little bit more definition. Oh, and I just realized something. I missed the back glove. So let's paint that. There we go. That's all there is to it. Right, I'm going to add a little bit more earth shade to this model just to kind of define some of the other sections. Again, I'm not going to need a whole lot, so just going to pull a little bit onto my brush and call it a day. Heads up, when you're buying Earthshade, make sure you read the bottle because there is Earthshade Gloss and Earthshade Standard. I have bought Earthshade Gloss before and accidentally did an entire model with it before I realized that it was gloss. So, you'll see. We have Earthshade and Earthshade Gloss. Be really careful with this stuff because it's super shiny. So it's going over the gloves here with some standard Earthshade, not gloss Earthshade. Just to kind of create some darkness. I'm also going to go over some of the details from before, just to kind of darken them up a little bit more. So going back over the pouches on the back. This strap here, not going too heavy, going to go pretty light on it. The belt again. He's Chaos, so he's pretty gritty. So we'll make it stay that way. And I already re-highlighted over here, but I'll shade down there again. Why not? And the hand I just did. Can't forget about that. Also, he's a cultist, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give a little bit of wear and tear to his weapon and put some Earthshade across the body to kind of give it like a bit of a worn look. Gives a kind of a dirty, rusty look, which is nice. A little bit more. So along the top here, on the side, make it look a little bit rusty and as if it was taken off the corpse of a Chaos Space Marine that was along his side and died, and he had to take up the gun and be like, "Look at me, I'm Chaos, and I have a flamethrower." Alright, so that's that section. Pretty happy with that. So I'm going to highlight a little here now. I'm going to do that with my Temple Guard blue. I'm going to kind of mix it on the wet palette here with my Techless blue to kind of give it a middle tone. Dry off my brush a little bit, and I'm actually going to edge highlight the edge of the hood here. With the Temple Guard blue, which is the standard color I use for the rest of the army. I want to stay a little wet with the paint too, because I want to blend it in best I can. These guys are dark, but not too dark. See how I'm getting a little bit of high contrast there on the back now. And I'm going to push that a little bit further. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a little bit of white scar, going to be a little bit bold. I'm going to add that to my wet palette. Just a little bit, don't need much. I'm going to add it up by my blue. That's going to be my edge highlight, but I'm going to kind of mix it with the other tones to kind of create a mid-tone. So a little bit of flow aid to kind of aid along here. Creating a kind of like a light blue, almost white tone. That's where the contrast comes in. I'm going to make my brush really wet so it blends really nicely. So very, very, very thin. Just going to dry the back of my ferrule off a little bit just to take it off. Just going to edge of the front. And the ridge here. And here. Very, very lightly. Don't be scared of it. Let it go really, really light. That's going to create almost like an edge highlight, but not really. I'm going to do the same thing along the ridges of the back of the cloak. Where light would hit it. Along the edge of the cloak itself. Just to kind of create a break in the tones. So you can see, getting a lot of contrast now. This is where the wet palette really shines. You can get some really even coatings of paint on your highlights. Same thing, I'm going to take it very, very, very thin, almost white, but not quite white. Dry off the brush a little bit more, but still keep a little bit of moisture on there. Let's get those edges. Really big fan of high contrast. Almost Borderlands-esque. I'd like to hear what you think of the quality of the stream since I got my new lighting. A little bit quiet in the chat, but I do see some bodies there, so I'd like to hear from you guys. Now my brush is kind of dry. I'm still going to take that same blue, edge highlight the mask to give a really high contrast. It actually works really nicely. It's pretty much white, so it works really well. So I'm going to give that another dry brush yet on the mask. But Kind of gives you an idea. So while I'm at it here, just kind of dry brush over the mask again with some Necron compound to darken it up a little tiny bit. Very, very, very dry brush. And I'm going to wash that with Nolan Oil again to kind of darken it up again. So it went a little too bright there. Just going to jump right in there with it. There we go. That's the mask a little bit better. So, while we're at the mask, one thing I want to do is I do want to do the eyes. So, I'm going to start off with that corn red I put in there earlier. Very thin on my really thin detail brush. I'm going to start with that. Give that a few minutes to dry and then we'll move on to the next step of that. Need a little boo-boo. Re-highlight. Alright, so we're getting there. We almost have a tangible cultist. So now that I had that brown really dry on the gun, I'm going to go over the gun again with some Necron compound again. I know I love this stuff said. Actually gonna go down onto the actual. There we go. So I am going to go down a little bit onto the flamer this time around to kind of give it that tone. So like it looks like the metal's kind of wearing off. What I'm going to do now will shock you. Not really. Just kidding. I'm not a clickbaiter. I'm going to grab a little bit of orange. So for that, I'm going to use Hot Orange from Vallejo Air. Put it on the paleta. Grab my detail brush. And I'm going to add a little bit of the orange to the top left-hand corner of the eyes to kind of create a definition, which is super stressful. probably not going to be able to appreciate that on video, but I'll take a photo and post it to Instagram afterwards. You'll appreciate it. And while I'm at it, while I have that orange, I'm going to do a funky little thing. Because, like I said, I like that weapon to be rusty. Because he is a Chaos Cultist who stole a gun from a dead space marine. So, Drybrush. There it is. Grab a bit of that orange. Dry off my Drybrush a lot. And I'm going to create a little bit of a rusty Drybrush on the weapon. Especially on the hook down here. That thing's been kicking around for a while, so it needs to be rusty. See? And there we go. We're getting there. It's starting to look pretty good there now. I'm going to start highlighting some brown. As soon as I clean off this Drybrush, because I think it's been to the ringer. That's much better. Master's brush cleaner is phenomenal. If you don't have any, get some. All right. I'm going to take some of my Steel Legion Drab here and mix it in with my brown oxide to create like a medium-ish brown. I'm going to start highlighting the cloak. I'm not going to go too heavy with the cloak. I don't really care too much for heavy detail on there, but just to raise sections. So, right here. All these little raised areas here. I went a little bit too light, so go a little bit darker. Benefit of a wet palette is I can blend. And it does blend in really nicely when I put it on. So I'm just going to go right down to the end here, but I'm going to leave the edges a little bit darker. Remember, you can apply any of these techniques to pretty much any mini too. This is kind of just what I'm painting at the moment. You can literally, there's brown on almost every model I've ever done, because it's a very easy tone to work with. Alright, that's that. Gonna go a little bit brighter, add some more Steel Legion in there. And highlight this edge again a little lighter to the bottom edge here. Get this raised area. Don't be afraid of your highlights, because it does actually look good. Even though you kind of don't trust it when you're doing it, it does look good in the end. I promise. I kind of promise, I guess. A little bit of flow aid on my brown. Clean it up a little bit. It's getting too thin. Add a little bit more Rhinox in there. Can't be afraid. Just gonna get into the arm here and do the more light exposed sections. That's that. One more dry brushing of Nightcrown Compound, and then I'm done, I promise. It's getting there. All right. And I'm just going to highlight the Steel Legion drab. I'm going to take the white that I put over earlier and I'm going to mix it into the Steel Legion just to kind of create a highlight. Just going to blend it up a little bit, so add a little bit of flow aid in there. A little bit more white. Going to keep going. You'll notice the tone is much lighter here just to kind of create a contrast. Guys, you're really quiet in the chat tonight. I wouldn't mind hearing from you. Just highlighting the belt here, just to kind of give it a little bit of definition. Oh, Shane, you're quiet, are you? How's the stream looking? Edge highlighting just to kind of bring out those edges nicely. Give you a little look there. Look at the back. Back looks a little bit more vanilla than the front, but it's pretty cool. He's almost done. Let's give him a little look over. Yeah, he's looking pretty good. Let's add some basing pastes. I'm pretty happy with this result right now. Like I said, this is a speed painting session, so I'm not too picky about the overall quality of the model, which, I mean, he looks pretty good anyway, but we'll just give him some base paste. Some based, even. Sorry. So, just like the rest of my guys, Armageddon dust, which is awesome. And I dropped something, but that's okay. For the Armageddon dust, I literally have a brush that doesn't move. Look at this. This is solid. That's never going anywhere again. I'm never going to be able to fix that brush, so it's Armageddon brush. That's it. And if you've never used this stuff before, it's a texture paste, so it's a little more gritty than most of the other stuff we've used. So I'm just going to pull it right from the pot. I'm just going to spread it on the entire base. Leave it a little bit thick, don't mind that. Thick. I also don't mind getting a little bit on the boot because, I mean, he's walking through mud, so, you know, it makes sense. A little bit on the bottom of his boot because he just walked through the mud. Get a little thicker with that. If you heard that, that was my washer. It cycled to sand it. Not important, but that's okay. That's that. Now before that dries, I'm going to wipe it from the edge, therefore when I put my edge color on there later, it won't affect it. So yeah, just a little bit of edge on the base, and I think this model is done. Let's give it a good look. And that, my friends, is a Chaos Cultist. So I'm going to end the stream there now. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll be posting a better picture of this guy in my Instagram feed now shortly if you want to see a better picture. In the meantime, I won't be on again now until after the new year, so I hope everyone has a fantastic new year. And I'll be making lots more videos coming soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good night.